My name is Julian Cohen. I'm 76 years old and retired. I returned to Israel 7 years ago as what is known as a Toshav Chozer, which is a returning citizen. My reason for returning to Israel was that my late wife and I always decided that we would spend our last years in Israel. Unfortunately, my wife passed away 11 years ago. We were living in the UK at the time. We'd made an original Aliyah to Israel in 1973, and we're here for the Yom Kippur War. In the January of 1974, we went to live on Kibbutz Nir Oz as prospective members, and we were accepted as members 3 years later. I have 4 daughters, all born in Israel, who now reside out of Israel near Manchester. I was inducted into the army and served in the artillery and was in the 1982 Lebanese War. In 1989, we left Israel because my youngest daughter required serious heart surgery, which was performed in Liverpool Alder Hey Hospital, a children's hospital in England. And because of her ongoing treatment, we decided not to return to Israel. So we stayed in England and stayed there. I worked there, and we brought our daughters up there, and they remained there. After my wife Susan passed away, I decided that it was time to come back to Israel.
How old have you been then?
Sorry?
How old were you?
When I came back, I was 71. And I made contact with the kibbutz, with a lady called Carol Simantov, who I knew from our early days as members. And I asked her, could you find me a guest room? I'm coming back to visit the kibbutz. My parents are buried on the kibbutz. They made Aliyah, and are buried in Nir Oz's cemetery. So I met Carol, and I spent a week to 10 days talking to members and saying, and how about if I was to come, could I come and live here as a renter, not as a member, but as a toshav, can I rent a house, please? And they said yes, with pleasure. As I was leaving, I mentioned to Carol that I had a big house and that if she would like to come and visit as a friend, I would give her a room and we could make a trip. She'd never been to England. So she came and visited England. And before she returned to Israel, I said, I have what is known as a bucket list. It's something that elderly people have, and you tick it as you go to the places that you haven't been to. And I said, my next trip is to fly to Vegas, take a car, go to California, go up the coast, Oregon, and then take a boat to Alaska. And Carol said, wow, yeah, great, let's do it. And since then, we've been together, and we've made many trips. We've been to South Africa, we've done safari, we've been to Norway and lived in slept in an ice hotel, looked at the stars at minus 26 degrees, Ireland, Scotland. The usual things that elderly people do when they're retired and have time. On the Friday before this happened, I said to Carol that I would sleep. I have a small house on the kibbutz separate from Carol because I work as a repair watches, and I like to be quiet and in my own space for this work. So I said, tonight I'll sleep at my place and I'll see you in the morning.
You lived together in the kibbutz for how long?
We were together in the kibbutz for how long? For 7 years. From the day I came back to Israel, I moved in and I was living with Carol for 6 of those years, but we decided because of my work, I need the quiet and that I'd get a little place. So I took a house, separate little room on the kibbutz, very tiny, and my bedroom is my shelter, or my shelter is my bedroom. Yes, what they call a mamad in Hebrew. At 6:30 that morning, on the 7th, the Seva Adom, the warning for incoming missiles, mortars, rockets, was sounded. And like every other citizen of Kibbutz Nir Oz, every other member or guest of members, it's just another day on the Gaza Strip. We're used to it. It happens all the time. We have quiet months, and then suddenly we'll have rockets, and then it'll go. So I thought, oh, another. So I went out and grabbed my little dog and brought her into the shelter and closed the door. I thought, I'll be out of here in 10 minutes or so, and I'll go and check on Carol, see she's okay, and we'll get on with Shabbat. And then, you can hear me? So I thought, that'll be it, and we'll another Shabbat. But then I heard automatic weapon fire, such as Kalashnikov and M16, which have their own particular sound, and that was very unusual. That you never hear. Never.
Outside your house?
Outside in the area. Outside the area. I could hear it in the distance. It wasn't outside my house at that time, it was in the distance. So I got onto an application we have on our phones called Mekomi. It's like a private application for Nir Oz, where we can send messages to each other, make announcements, talk about opening time, what's the menu in the dining room, that sort of internal communication. So I got onto Mekomi, and I saw people were saying, don't leave the house. There are people inside the kibbutz. There's shooting. We don't know what's going on, but don't leave the house. Don't leave the shelter. I'm trying to raise Carol on the phone, and there's no answer at all. Try on Mekomi, no answer. I'm phoning around trying to get to people, and suddenly people start saying, they're here, they're in the house, help us. Somebody phone for the army. Where's the army? Where's the army?
You read Hebrew?
In Hebrew. Yes, in Hebrew. I'm struggling, but I'm keeping up with it and knowing something seriously is going wrong. So then I hear Gidon Patsua, somebody was wounded severely, needs a nurse, come quickly, and nobody can get there because nobody can leave the shelter. This is going on till about 10 o'clock. And then I heard some people, terrorists, murderers, come into my house. I heard the door break open, the front door of the house, and I heard shouting in Arabic. I should imagine telling me to come outside. I don't speak Arabic, don't understand it, I don't know, cursing and that. And then our shelters are designed to protect us from falling bombs, not from internal attack by terrorists. So you cannot lock the door with a key, or you have to hold the handle in the upright position. Otherwise you can open it from outside. So I'm holding on to the door handle, and the guy or whoever he was on the other side is trying to open it and banging on the door with his rifle and shouting and screaming. And after about 2 or 3 minutes, he sort of gave up, and I could hear them smashing things and pulling drawers open, and I have a workbench there, and I could hear things going on the floor. And then it went quiet. They left. So I sort of stayed there. It doesn't lock. Doesn't lock. You can't lock it. So
you said they left?
After they left, the house went very quiet. I could still hear shouting outside and some shooting in the distance. I sat back down on my bed. My dog hadn't moved, and we had no water. We had nothing because we didn't think we would be there, so I didn't take anything with me. And we sat and we waited, and there's more and more messages, and where's the army? The army's not here. Where's the Air Force? Nobody's coming to help us. the messages are becoming more and more frantic. And then some people were writing, I can see their house is on fire. I can see Shoshi's house is on fire. I can see this house is on fire. So this went on till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they came back to my house. I believe, I can't be sure, but I believe that the people who came back to my house were not the first wave that came with the guns to kill. I think this wave, or these people, were ones that came to steal, to look for what they could find. I mean, they took everything they could find. I mean,
They knew that you are in the mamad.
They knew, if the door was closed, so they knew I was still inside there, and they tried to open the door, but I held the handle again. But they didn't try very hard. They were more interested in what they could find and steal. And they stole a collection of watches that I have. They stole my laptop. They stole my hearing aids. They stole my dark glasses, which are optic for me. They stole the things out of my refrigerator. They stole my bottles of alcohol. These are supposedly Muslim, alcohol forbidden. But they took all my whiskies, all my vodkas, all my everything. They took it. They took us.
Were they citizens of Gaza or Hamas? You don't know.
This I don't know, because the door was shut and I'm inside hoping and praying that the guys don't come back with the guns. About an hour after they left, my air conditioner in the mamad had stopped working. The electricity had gone off, and it was very, very hot. And so we have a window in the mamad with a sliding steel shutter, which is a thick steel shutter that you can push across to protect from a shrapnel. So I opened the window very quietly, and then very easily moved the metal back about 5-10 centimeters just to let some air in. And I'm looking out of the window at the row of houses behind me, because my house is one of a row of 4, I think. And I'm the third house, and there's one more behind me. And I can see what I suppose was a father and mother, and 3 children, probably 10, 12, maybe that age with them, and a grandmother with a walking stick pushing a trolley, a barrow, a big thing on 2 wheels along, and they're going into every house and coming out with clothes and television sets and whatever else, and piling it all onto the
They were Muslim.
thing. They were citizens of Gaza. Who else could they be? They'd been told, probably by whoever was there, the terrorists or the murderers, there's no army. Those we haven't killed are hiding in the shelters, so come and help yourself. So it was like bazaar time at Kibbutz Nir Oz. It was just come and help yourself. And that's what they were doing. They were going into the house. I watched them go into a house and come out with arms full of clothes and put them onto the top. Okay, and then move on to the next house. So at 4:30 in the afternoon, there was a knock on my shelter door, on the metal door. It said, we're the army, we've come to rescue you. And we'd been told on the Mekomi, there was a sisma, a password that the army had to tell me so that I knew it was them and not terrorists pretending to be the army. So I asked them what the password was, and they said Platoon 3, or Plugar Gimel in Hebrew. And then I knew it was the army, and I opened the door. There were 3 soldiers there, and they said, come with us, bring the dog, don't bring anything else. And they escorted me to a children's house in the middle of the kibbutz. This children's house had been, a few years ago, reinforced by putting a big concrete roof over it. And it was surrounded by troops, and all the members were being taken into this area. People are arriving, and as they're clearing the kibbutz by row, house by house. So I asked, has anybody seen Carol? And nobody had. So I said, I'm going to go back and find her. And the soldier said, you can't go, you can't go. I said, I'm going. He said, there could be terrorists here, I'm going. And before I could leave, somebody came to me and told me that Carol had been killed, murdered, and her 1-year-old boxer dog had been shot alongside her, killed. Apparently, I don't know, and I don't think anybody will ever really know what happened, but I don't think that she managed to keep the door open. They managed to get inside the shelter, and because Charlie's a big boxer dog, and I want to be careful here what I say, but it's a sort of, I don't know whether it's a myth or not, Arabs do not like dogs at all. I don't know how true it is. I've heard it said. It might be a myth. But I think Charlie jumped up and the guy opened fire and killed him and Carol at the same time. That's what I believe happened. I don't know. And no one will ever really know. So I'm sort of, a couple of hours later, sort of thinking to myself, you know, where's Carol's children? Because Carol had 2 daughters and a son living on Nir Oz. And I saw Corinne, her daughter, and I saw Gilly, her husband, and I saw them sitting with their children. And then I saw Amit, her other daughter, with her husband and her children. And I said, where's John? Johnny, we call him, Jonathan. Where's Johnny? Where's Tamari? And then somebody came to me and said, Johnny and Tamari, their 2 twin daughters, Shachan Arbel, 6, and their son Omar, had been killed, murdered in their shelter. The one good thing is that Carol never knew what happened to her grandchildren and to her son, because he would have killed her anyway. So we spent that night in that house. The next day we were in the communal children's house.
So, and there, that's the place you see her kids and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the place was a madhouse. It was full of people and crying, and you can imagine, if you can imagine, it was terrible. I didn't sleep at all that night. In the morning, the army came and said, we're evacuating you. Our Ravshatz, the guy that's in charge of the kibbutz security, had returned. He'd been wounded fighting the terrorists, and he had a bullet wound through and through on one side. He'd gone to the hospital, been sewn up, given antibiotics, and came back. So they arranged, they said, we're arranging buses and we're taking you to Eilat. So you'll go with 3 soldiers, you can pack 1 small bag, take what you think you need, and come back. We weren't allowed to walk around the kibbutz on our own at all. So I was escorted to the house, and the soldier said, I'll give you 20 minutes. Okay. So I grabbed a small carry-on case, grabbed my medication, forgot Pepper's medication, grabbed some underwear, grabbed a shirt, grabbed a few things, stuffed it all in, and then they walked me back to that house. And we were kept in that house until the buses arrived. We were then, some of the members decided not to come to Eilat, but to go to family in other parts of the country. So the buses stopped halfway here while they transferred people that were going to Jerusalem and other places. But those people that wanted to come to Eilat or had no option, we were brought here, arrived here in the evening. We were made unbelievably welcome. This hotel has welcomed us with open heart. Amazing. And we've been here ever since. We were told yesterday that they have found apartments for us in a new suburb of Kiryat Gat, which is about half an hour from Ashkelon. We have one complete apartment block of 74 apartments or something, and half of another one. So Nir Oz will change from a horizontal kibbutz to a vertical kibbutz. And all the members will stay together and we'll be together and we'll continue to function as a sort of kibbutz and keep our community together. They say that we could be there for 9 months. I don't know. Israel time, 9 months can be a year. It depends. And then they want, or they think, that they'll move us to a kibbutz called Lahav, which is north of Beersheba. And there they'll put something which I'd never heard of before in my life, something called a caravilla, which is, I thought was a caravan on wheels, but was told no. It's a ready-made house that they put onto a foundation and you just move in, and it's sort of like a Lego thing almost. My intention is to return to Nir Oz. Yes.
You have lots of friends there?
I have all my friends there. My parents are buried there. Carol is buried there. John and Tamari are buried there. I will be buried there. And I won't give them the moral victory of having me move from my home. This is our country. This is our home. This was the area given to us in 1947. We're not in Yehuda and Shomron. We're not in disputed territories. We're in Eretz Israel, and that's where we'll stay. That's roughly my story. So I hope that helps.
How many hours have you been in the mamad?
I was in the mamad from 6:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon. I consider myself, although I've lost my partner and her family, John and that, I consider myself one of the very lucky ones. They didn't burn my home. I have friends on the kibbutz that have lost I mean everything. One lady, Clarice, she left the kibbutz with the dress and shoes she stood up in. She left the kibbutz just in the clothes she stood. They burnt her house to the ground. Now, all her family albums, because in our age, a lot of the photographs of children and grandchildren are in albums, all burnt. All her parents, all her history, everything. Her house is just a black, empty ruin. They didn't.
You have a house to go back to.
They will build her a new house, and they will buy her a new television. They will buy her, but they won't bring back her life. My house wasn't burnt. They stole. I can replace a laptop. I can replace my watches. I can replace them. I can't replace Carol. I can't replace Jonathan. But I'm one of the lucky ones. So, people have had horrific things. These, I can't call them animals, because animals don't behave that way. Animals kill to survive, to eat, and to protect their young. These monsters came to inflict horror, and unfortunately, they succeeded. The things that they did. The week before this happened, Karen and I had returned from Poland. We both decided we'd like to visit Auschwitz and Birkenau. I think every Jewish person should visit at one time in their life to see it. And we had a guide who talked us through the camp, through both of them. Horror, beyond horror. And that evening we got back to Krakow, and we were sat having a glass of wine at a cafe. And I said to Carol, Thank God that'll never happen again. A week later, if you'd have put them in German uniform and changed the language, you could have been in Poland in 1940. It's the Shoah, come right back. Exactly. Women and children and babies and horrors that are unimaginable. It just came right back. They call it Black Saturday now. I don't know what it's... And I think the greatest damage is twofold. One, the people who are being held by them. We have 70 members of our kibbutz captured, held. That will, if they survive that, and please God they do, that will change their lives forever. They will never be the same people ever again. And the children of Nir Oz will never be the same again either. The impact on the children, 2 days ago, or I think it was 2 days, last Thursday, there was a drone attack in Edut. A school was struck. And I heard the siren go, and I heard a child say to his mother, "Are the bad men coming back again?" These children will carry this for years. The impact will be for years. This will be a long time healing. It will be a long time being put right.
Thank you very much.
יש לך משהו שאתה רוצה לשאול?
Okay.
באמת, יש לך הרבה מזל.
Life is chance. It's a pure chance. Carol's best friend, Mazal, on the Friday morning, saw a special deal for a weekend in Kafrsin, a cheap deal, including flight and hotel and meals, really good. And she tried to get hold of Carol by phone to say, grab Julian, grab a case, let's go and have a weekend. Because we used to do things like that. It's crazy, you know. And she couldn't raise Carol, so they went. So they weren't there. We were there.
כשהיית בממ"ד לא הצלחת להיות בקשר? אתה מצלם? לא היית בקשר עם קארול?
No, I couldn't raise her. Apparently one of her houses was the first that they reached. And so she was one of the very first. I think what happened was that the terrorists were already in the country before they started firing rockets. And the mistake that Hamas made was firing the rockets. If Hamas had not fired the rockets, it would not have triggered Tseva Adom. It would not have triggered the Iron Dome system. Everybody would have been asleep in their beds. Nobody would have been in a shelter. Well, I'd have been in a shelter, but I'd have been in my bed fast asleep. The whole kibbutz, it was Saturday morning, 6:30. Everybody would have been asleep in their beds. Nobody would have gone to a shelter. They'd have walked into every house. Everybody would have been open. Their big mistake was firing those rockets, setting off the alert, which got everybody into the shelter. Otherwise, it would have been a total massacre. I don't think anybody in Kibbutz Nir Oz would have got out alive. I really don't. By the time people realized what was happening, it would have been too late because there were so many of them. You know, so they made a mistake. That mistake was to our advantage because we'd have, I mean, 6:30 on the Saturday morning, Shabbat B'Boker, meal, what do? Turn over and have another hour. No work. Pepper's okay, she's still sleeping. So, yeah. No, כי הם גנבו לי את כל הכלים. אז כל המבריגים וכל הדברים הקטנים, מישהו לקח שק ועושה ככה, ולקח הכל. השולחן היה נקי. שטויות.
כן, ואיזה מזל היה לך, שהם ויתרו לך.
כן. What's up? Come here. Come here. Come here. She keeps me sane. Yeah, she keeps me grounded. She's a crazy lady. Yes.
הילדים שלך לא באים, לא יבואו, אתה לא רוצה לעבור לגור עם הילדים שלך?
Sorry?
לנסוע לילדים שלך?
Ken, that's another story. My daughters want me to go immediately back to England and live in England and forget Israel ever happened. And I said, no, you have a crazy father. I'm not living. Israel's my home, my country, and this is where I'll be. But they live in near Manchester, and I can get an EasyJet flight from Ben Gurion, 5 hours, and I'm in Manchester. And what I was doing until this happened, every couple of months, I'd jump on a plane and go and visit for a week, 10 days, see the kids, see this, go out for a meal, spoil the grandchildren, and then leave. So I said, oh, we'll go back to that. That will happen. We'll go back to that routine. I said, and in my new apartment in Kiryat Gat, I have 2 now spare bedrooms. So next summer, I expect you to come and visit me. And they said, oh, I said, it'll be next summer, it'll be fine. We'll go to the beach in Ashkelon, we'll have a great time, there'll be none of this. We'll have sorted out Hamas by then. So...
How do you find new love?
I don't think too far into the future at the moment. I try to live one day at a time. I'm talking, I'm not embarrassed to say, I'm talking to a psychiatrist. I can't sleep. I have a bad time sleeping. And I don't really want to start taking sleeping pills. Bad thing. I know someone who got very bad with them. So I asked here, there over Socialit, and I said I'd like to speak to a doctor, professional. So I've had a couple of sessions with him, and he's working with me how to cope. And I have good days, bad days. Yeah, it will, you know, I mean, life will go on. It will go on, and things will go on, and things will go. It's just... dealing with it. Anyway, I hope this helps.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I want this. I want the world to know this happened and how it happened. They forget so quickly. They really do. I mean, we're 5 weeks after the effect, and they're already, we're the big bad guys now. We're the baddies. We're treating the Gaza with this. Grab some reality, people. Forget the politics and take a look at what happened. And look at what the Hamas are doing. Look at underneath the hospitals. All their terror tunnels, all their thing. The whole of Gaza is like a metro system. And the irony is who supplied them with the concrete and the binyan and that? We did. For them to build hospitals and schools, and instead of that they used what we supplied them to build an infrastructure to kill us. So I was a middle of the road political guy. I thought live and let live. You know, we can, if you have a bad neighbor, you can build a fence and you can say good morning and good night and you just go about. You can live together. And I thought, maybe we can do that. There's no way. You cannot make peace with these people. You can't talk to monsters. You can't have any sort of dialogue with them. No understanding, no give and take. All they want to do is kill, rape, murder, pillage. They just want to kill us all of us. And you can't have that. You can't have that on your wherever it is. Can't have it in the north, can't have it in the south. We have to stop this. There's a famous, I read biographies, political biographies. I'm very interested in the life of Golda Meir and Shimon Peres, and I just finished an autobiography of Joe Biden, the president. And he was here when Golda Meir was Prime Minister. So was I. That's how old I am. And he went for a photo shoot. You know, the usual politicians shake hands for the camera and they're smiling. And he said, he asked her, he said, you have 100 million Arabs surrounding Israel who want to eliminate you. How are you going to stand up and deal with it? And Golda Meir said, we have a secret weapon. And he thought she meant the atomic bomb. And he said, so what's that? She said, we have nowhere else to go. So, we have nowhere else to go but here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Let me give you your microphone back.